This is a 2014 Volkswagen Polo GTI 1.4 TSI DSG that was repossessed from the owner because he or she could not make the monthly installments. We are currently about 18 hours and 54 minutes away from this auction ending, and the current asking bid is 84,000 rands. So in this video we're going to follow the journey of this car to find out whether or not bank repossessed car auctions are actually worth it. And while we're tracking one bank repossessed car, we might as well dive deep into the world of these auctions, find out how they work, how you can take part in them, and whether or not it is worth it for you to buy your next car from them. When you buy a car on finance, what normally happens is that the finance institution that you used will front the cash price of the car to the dealership where you bought the car. After that, you as the owner of that car are then responsible for paying back that money to the finance institution by means of monthly installments. And if, like, you're a functional, financially responsible adult, you'll pay back all of that money plus the interest that they added on top, and then enjoy installment-free car ownership from that point on. If you're not that, or you somehow find yourself in a position where you can't afford the monthly installments for the car anymore, what will happen is that the financial institution will give you grace for a couple of months, if you beg them nicely on those phone calls. But after that grace period, if you continue to fail to make the monthly installments on that car, the car will be taken back to the possession of the financing institution who kind of owned it from the beginning. I mean, they were the people who fronted the cash price to the dealership. The institution will then try to get the rest of the money that car owes them back by putting it in a bank repossessed car auction. At this point, it will be inspected by the auction house's evaluators with any faults that they find being listed on an information sheet that is made publicly available when the car goes on auction. The information sheet will also include information about the car's warranty and service plan, and considering that repossessed cars are normally fairly new, a lot of them do still have those, so you'll find all of that information in the inspection report. After the inspection, the car will then be assigned a reserve price, which is normally about 10 to 15% less than the car's actual retail value. And if you don't know what a reserve price is, this is basically the minimum amount that the owner of the car is willing to take for it. If bidders don't meet this amount during the auction, the car will not be sold and will probably be recycled again to be auctioned another day. So yes, my friends, those are the basics of bank repossessed car auctions. Let's now dive deeper into this world to discover where you can find and how you can take part in such auctions. It is currently 8:37 a.m. I recorded the intro to this video last night, so now we are at about 4 hours and 33 minutes from this auction on this 2014 Volkswagen Polo GTI ending. I am about to get on with my day, but thought I'd do an update on this car. It is currently at an 87,000 rand asking bid, which is still extremely low considering that these cars go for around 200,000 rands on the normal used car market. So then, as the auction draws closer to its end, we're obviously going to see a considerable hike in the price of the car, but 87,000 rands asking bid at 4 hours 32 minutes left is insane. And it's even more insane when you consider that this car started at a 45,000 rand bid. Absolute insanity. We're going to see where this car ends up going, but for now, back to the video. The first and probably well-known way to buy a bank repossessed car is going to a physical auction. Before I show you all the specific physical auctions that you can go to find these bank repossessed cars, let's first go through some considerations that you have to keep in mind before you go. According to Auto Trader, in order to register for any vehicle auction, you first need to provide them with a certified ID copy and proof of residence that is no older than 3 months. Most of these auction houses will also charge a refundable registration fee, which tends to be around 5,000 rand. So yeah, make sure you have that. Make sure you are prepared for that. It is around there. I mean, it's obviously different for different auction houses, but that is the price that Auto Trader stated. So that is round about the amount of money you need to have before going to register to buy a car from auction. You also obviously have to prove that you can actually afford the cars that you're bidding on. This is something that you can do by proving that you've already been pre-approved for finance or providing bank statements to them that prove that you indeed have enough guap. And the guap matter is very serious. You really have to make sure that your wallet is fat enough, because if you bid on a car and you win it and you can't pay for it, that 5,000 rands is gone, my friend. So make sure that you're bidding on something that you can actually afford. And one thing that goes into that affordability is the VAT that is going to be charged on top of the price that you bid it for. So if you don't know, auction houses will add about 15% VAT on top of the price that you bid it for the car. So you have to make sure that you have that amount ready on top of the price that you bid it for. If not, that 5,000 rands is gone. All right, now that we're familiar with what I would say is like most of the rules, let's find the best way to find and visit a local auction near you. Auction Finance is a licensed auction facilitator that hosts vehicle auctions for big financial institutions, big banks such as Westbank, MFC, Standard Bank, and Absa. They have physical locations in Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and the Free State, and more. So if you go on their website, you should be able to find a auction reasonably close to you that you can actually attend. Bidvest Birchmore's also has frequent vehicle auctions across their branches in Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg. So that's also another way for you to find physical auctions, is go on their websites and look for the closest events to you. So yes, those are two great options for finding auctions in South Africa. Pause. But if you wanted to do your own research, I would recommend going to the SAIA's website and looking up auction houses local to you that are registered to them. This can be a bit daunting as their website is not exactly the easiest to navigate, but it is a really good way of finding reliable Consumer Protection Act compliant auction houses that don't scam you out of all the money you have like most of these bank repossessed car Facebook groups will. Something that we'll get into later on in the video is that you are advised to never buy an auction car sight unseen. Never bid on a car that you haven't seen and inspected with your own eyes. And that piece of advice is actually really advisable. That's the best way to buy an auction car, is going there, inspecting it with someone who is technically inclined, maybe your mechanic, and making sure that the car you are buying is not an absolute lemon. But if you are more oriented towards convenience instead of safety and sense, then you can buy a car on an online auction. So then let's take a look at SAIA approved auction houses that allow you to bid on cars online. A lot of the online auction platforms can be found on the platforms that we've just talked about, because on top of the physical auctions, platforms such as Auction Finance and Bidvest Birchmore's will have online auctions on their websites as well that you can peruse through and bid on without seeing a car and buy a car totally sight unseen. I'm sure that's going to go very well, and I recommend you do that. But yeah, if that's the route you want to go, you can go back on those platforms just talked about and find yourself a deal, I guess. I mean, if those don't float your boat, or you can't really find bank repossessed cars that are to your liking on those platforms, you can always just jump on Google and look for online auctions. Of course, making sure that they are SAIA certified, you know, just to make sure that your search for a new car doesn't turn into an impromptu search for justice. The time is currently 13 minutes past 11, still in the morning. I've come back from running some errands. I'm about to go out again, but thought I would check on this car again. The car is 1 hour 57 minutes and 5 seconds away from being sold, and the current asking bid is 90,000 rands. So I'm probably gonna check it like when it's like 10 minutes away from being sold. I probably will not be here at that time. But yes, 2 hours away from the end, and the asking bid is still as low as 90,000 rands. You know, with how much potential there is to get an absolute steal on a car by buying it from auction, it might look like this is the best way to buy your next car, right? Well, no, it is absolutely nowhere near a no-brainer, and here's why. Unless you're buying a car that still has its manufacturer warranty intact, you have no guarantee on a car that you buy from auction, which means that when you buy a car, it becomes your problem and your problem alone. If you buy a car from auction and the engine blows up as soon as you leave the gate, unfortunately, that is your problem. That is one downside of an auction, is even when you do thoroughly inspect a car, there is still an element of buying blind. Cars with obvious issues will have these issues listed in the car's information sheet like we've just talked about. But if the car has hidden issues like we saw with my ex BMW, well, you're on your own, chief, and we saw how expensive that could get, so that is something to be very careful of as well. This is made worse by the fact that with most auctions, test drives are nearly impossible, so you really are buying a car at your own risk. You're buying something you've never driven before, you don't know what kind of sounds it makes, you don't know how the engine is running. Like I said, you are kind of buying blind in a way, but you know, the prices make up for such inconveniences. You can also find yourself overpaying for a car just because of how much adrenaline there is in the auction house. You can find yourself in a bidding war to the point where you actually pay way more for the car than you actually should, especially considering the VAT that's added on top. So it is absolutely imperative to do your own research on the car that you're planning to bid on. Make sure you know what it is supposed to cost before you actually end up getting kind of scammed and having your money taken from you unnecessarily. Another aspect requiring extensive amounts of research is making sure that you know the vehicle's history. You can do this by noting the car's VIN number and then calling up the dealership that the car was sourced from, asking them for stuff like service history and the general history of the car, or by using platforms like Car Vertical, which should definitely sponsor me in the future, but it's fine. Nonetheless, I am mentioning them completely free of cost. It's fine because they're a really good platform. Use platforms like that, Car Vertical or similar platforms, to look up the history of the car to make sure that you're not buying a lemon or a car that was wrapped around a tree and then fixed by the Matt Armstrongs of this world. To avoid being overwhelmed by the aforementioned adrenaline-filled environment that is often present in auction houses, it is advised that you go visit a few auctions before you actually start bidding. Get in an auction, be comfortable with the environment, be comfortable with the way that the bids go and how the announcer announces prices, stuff like that. Just be familiar with the entire thing before you buy your first car. Go to like 2 or 3 auctions before, just view things, observe how things work before you actually cost yourself hundreds of thousands of rands because the nice auction man with a smooth voice kept making eye contact with you. Make sure that you're comfortable with the auction environment before you bid. As you just saw, I am at my business partner's house. We are currently trying to troubleshoot some stuff with the pressure washer there, but the auction on the Polo GTI is still at an asking bid of only 90,000 rands, and it's 10 minutes left until the auction ends. So I'm gonna call it there. It's probably gonna go up by like 10 to 15,000 rands more about. So I'm gonna call it there because I really have to be busy. But that is how cheap auction cars can actually be. I mean, the same Polo GTI with the same kilometers, I'll put it up on screen here, the same car goes for close to 200,000 rands. And so to be able to buy that car for 90,000 rands is absolute insanity. So yes, that is definitely one of the biggest benefits of an auction car. Anyway, let's wrap this video up. I'm gonna get back to work. So back to me in the studio to wrap things up. So yes, my friends, that is it for our video about bank repossessed cars. This is a new world to me. I've never really been interested in auctions that much. So it was really fun researching everything for this video, learning everything that I did. I hope you guys also got some value from this video. And until the next one, goodbye.